The expiry date of AEW's deal with Warner Bros. Discovery to air on television has now been revealed. Details on when it expires and what it could mean for AEW moving forward. Mustafa Ali is no longer with WWE, but could he be headed to All Elite Wrestling? Well, one person certainly thinks so. More details on Jon Moxley's concussion that he suffered this week at AEW Dynamite Grand Slam in Arthur Ashe Stadium. John Cena and AJ Styles are set to team up tonight on SmackDown in a tag team match. Adam Cole's injury that he suffered on Wednesday could put a Wrestle Dream title match in jeopardy. Details on what that match is. Did Shawn Michaels like an anti-Stephanie McMahon tweet? We'll look into that. Plus, we've got details on the ticket sales for the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite and Rampage. Backstage issues reportedly leading to one NXT star being released, and Eichmann Gyro also part of the talent cuts. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. And let's start off talking about AEW's television deal with Warner Bros. Discovery and when it will expire. Of course, it's been a big week for pro wrestling media rights renewals, with SmackDown heading to the USA Network next year and leaving Fox. Monday Night Raw and NXT's future is somewhat up in the air right now. But what about the AEW side of things? Well, now there is a known date for when AEW's television contracts will expire. The first episode of AEW Dynamite aired in October 2019, with Dynamite airing on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern for 2 hours. It started on TNT but was moved to TBS. Both channels are part of the Warner Bros. Discovery family. Now, AEW Rampage, of course, launched in August 2021 and is a Friday night 1 hour show which takes place at 10 p.m. Eastern, right after WWE SmackDown. It usually is taped after Dynamite. AEW Collision debuted in June of this year with a 2 hour time slot at 8 p.m. on Saturdays on TNT. Upon the debut of AEW Collision, AEW ended their YouTube shows, Dark and Dark Elevation, so that all of AEW shows will air on television exclusively on Warner Bros. Discovery properties. Following the debut of Collision, there were multiple reports about when AEW's current TV deal would expire, because there was some belief that the deals may expire at the end of the year or perhaps the end of next year. While in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer writes that the deal is set to expire at the end of 2024. He says, quote, AEW's deal with WBD expire on December 31st, 2024, which does confirm a new deal reached with the company that added Collision and gave WBD exclusivity, which kicked off just before Collision debuted and when the streaming of Dark and Dark Elevation shows were dropped, and that new deal ends at the end of 2024. Now, of course, the reports are quite conflicting about this, because it was kind of murky as when Collision launched about whether or not AEW had signed a new deal with Warner Bros. Discovery. It was kind of later reported that it wasn't really a new deal, more of an extension of the same deal, a short-term extension with new bits added in, i.e. AEW Collision airing on TNT on Saturdays and every AEW program becoming exclusive to Warner Bros. Discovery. So as far as the big long-term new deal, that hasn't been signed just yet. The latest deal, as I mentioned, does expire at the end of 2024, that being December 31st, 2024. It is very likely that AEW and Warner Bros. Discovery will have discussions prior to the end of 2024 about a contract renewal. There's been discussions that this talk is already beginning right now. The expectation most likely is that AEW will stay with Warner Bros. Discovery, but for how much and how long, we'll have to wait and see. Let me know your predictions and thoughts about that in the comment section below. Now, Mustafa Ali was one name that was released by WWE yesterday, but he could end up in All Elite Wrestling. When it comes to having a lot of influence in AEW, one name, Bryan Danielson, is a guy that not only wrestles, but also helps with creative ideas for the company. Recently, Danielson spoke about his friendship with AEW CEO and General Manager Tony Khan, noting that they get along really well and talk about wrestling a lot. Khan also said that if something ever happened to him to prevent him from working, then he would tell his family to have Danielson run AEW in his absence. One of the names released by WWE on Thursday was Mustafa Ali, who had been with the company for about 7 years. Bryan Danielson was with WWE for a lot of Ali's run, with Danielson using the name Daniel Bryan in WWE. In 2019, Ali received the biggest push of his main roster career on SmackDown. He was scheduled for a major push against the heel WWE champion Bryan Danielson. However, Ali had an injury, so WWE replaced him with Kofi Kingston, who rode that momentum into Kofi Mania, leading into WrestleMania 35 with a victory over Daniel Bryan to become the WWE champion. I believe at the time it was most likely to have Kevin Owens face Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania for the title. As I mentioned, Ali was meant to be a feud before that, but then he got injured. Kofi Kingston was put in, and that feud escalated and escalated and escalated escalated to the point that Kofi Kingston became the WWE champion. During this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer writes about how Ali could potentially go to AEW due to his past history with Danielson. He said, quote, Mustafa Ali is a strong in-ring talent who talks well and would be someone I could end up seeing in AEW, particularly since Bryan Danielson has been high on him. Danielson had picked Ali to work with for the WWE title on a pay-per-view in early 2019, but he was injured by Randy Orton and his spot was taken by Kofi Kingston on the Elimination Chamber show. He did end up recovering and got into a three-way title with Danielson and Kevin Owens, where he lost the fall and was never pushed at that level since. His work in NXT of late was strong as a smarmy heel who was feuding with Lee and Dominic Mysterio in the North American title picture. His release was apparently because the decision was made that they did not see him being used on the main roster. He was making main roster money. But it was notable they didn't even wait for his television program to play out or even wait a week to write him out of the storyline. Ali had publicly requested to be released in January of 2022, likely believing he would fit in better elsewhere, whether that be in AEW or Japan, but it was turned down. Of course, if Ali wants to sign with AEW, he will have to wait about 90 days on December 20th for the non-compete clause to expire. Speaking of Bryan Danielson, though, the rivalry between Bryan Danielson and Absolute Ricky Starks didn't end at AEW All Out earlier this month, where they had that brutal strap match. That's because there's another big match coming this Saturday on AEW Collision as well. They're going to be taking place and actually having a match in a Texas death match. Of course, that's taking place tomorrow on TNT. But what are your thoughts about Mustafa Ali and the chances and likelihood of him going to AEW? Do you think he'll be a good fit there, or should he go elsewhere? Let me know your thoughts about that. Now we have some more details about Jon Moxley's concussion that he suffered this week on AEW Dynamite Grand Slam. Jon Moxley, of course, suffered a concussion on AEW Dynamite this week, and there's now an update on how it occurred as well as his current status. The AEW International Championship was on the line at Dynamite Grand Slam on Wednesday in New York City. Jon Moxley defended the title against Rey Fenix in a hard-hitting match that unfortunately saw Moxley suffer a concussion during the match. There was a spot early in the match where Fenix did a dive onto Moxley on the floor and hit Moxley's head with his knee. That knocked Moxley loopy for the early part of the match. Though they got through it, and at the conclusion of the match, it appeared as though Moxley was knocked out as Fenix hit a Fenix driver 2 times to get the victory. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer writes about Moxley suffering a, quote, mild concussion while writing about what went wrong in the match. He said, quote, Jon Moxley suffered a mild concussion when Rey Fenix did the flip dive off the ramp before the international title match started. He was able to shake it off and nobody knew he was concussed, although there was a moment where he stumbled getting up that you knew there was cause for concern. But he did the match and progressively started to get lost, and then he realized he was messed up. As Meltzer continued, he noted that Jon Moxley changed the finish of the title match to put Rey Fenix over. The original plan was for Moxley to retain the title he won earlier this month. Quote, at that point he thought that since he was hurt and he wasn't sure how badly, he told Fenix to finish him, and he was changing the finish to put him over. It's actually something wrestlers who have titles who think they are hurt and may miss some time should do, because it's better the title passes through a loss than the champion being hurt and beating the challenger. Mercedes Moné did that for Willow Nightingale, but both of those situations are the exception to what usually happens. Moxley could have just told Fenix he was hurt and had let him choke him out or do something like that so he could win as planned, but he didn't think it was the right thing to do, and people like he and Moné have the star power and experience to call audibles. Fenix gave him the Phoenix driver, and referee Rick Knox held up the count at 2, apparently not realizing the situation. Most thought watching it that it was Phoenix driver that hurt him and he had a stinger and couldn't kick out, but the Phoenix driver didn't hurt him at all. Knox, not counting, took it down, but Moxley told Knox what was going on and wasn't happy, and Phoenix gave him another Phoenix driver, and again he didn't kick out, but Knox counted to 3. Phoenix got the international title. It was noted that Phoenix took heat in a lot of places for hurting him with his finisher when it was totally safe. Moxley was feeling better when he got to the back, and they gave him tests and they called it a minor concussion. Now, as for when Moxley may return from his concussion, Meltzer writes that it depends on Moxley passing protocol testing. It could be a week or longer, depending how Moxley does with the test. Of course, best wishes to Jon Moxley. Hopefully he can recover from that concussion fairly soon and it's not too serious. Now, SmackDown is tonight on Fox, and we've got a massive tag team match actually scheduled for the show. John Cena and AJ Styles may be former rivals in WWE, but they will also be tag team partners tonight on SmackDown. There is a big tag team match set for tonight's edition of SmackDown on Fox. It has been reported by PW Insider's Mike Johnson. The former WWE champions John Cena and AJ Styles will team up against the brother tag team of Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. That match between Cena and Styles facing Jimmy and Solo actually happened as a dark match after SmackDown last week in Denver. Cena pinned Jimmy to win the match for his team. In the main event of last week's SmackDown in Denver, John Cena was interviewed by Grayson Waller, although Cena wasn't able to talk due to an interruption from Jimmy Uso. When Solo Sikoa arrived, it looked like he might attack his brother, but instead he hit John Cena with a super kick. AJ Styles ran out for the save. Cena and Styles cleaned house to end the show. Based on the way that the storyline has gone, it was assumed by many fans that the Cena-Styles tag team match against Jimmy and Solo would be at Fastlane on October 7, but apparently it's happening on SmackDown. Now, as of this recording, WWE is yet to advertise this, so we'll have to wait and see if indeed they go down that route. Some people are suggesting that maybe they're doing it tonight because there is some thought that the actors and writers strike could end soon, and if it does, that may mean John Cena is wrapping up on SmackDown sooner than predicted. Now, let's go back to AEW and talk about an injury that Adam Cole suffered this past week on AEW Dynamite and how it may put title plans for WrestleDream up in the air. An injury to Adam Cole could change a match that AEW had planned for the WrestleDream pay-per-view. The AEW Dynamite Grand Slam episode was praised by a lot of people for having great matches, but it was a rough night for two top stars. We mentioned previously about Jon Moxley suffering a concussion during his match with Rey Fenix, while Adam Cole was sent to the hospital even though he didn't wrestle that night. In the main event of Dynamite Grand Slam, Cole's best friend, AEW World Champion MJF, defended the world title against Samoa Joe, the Ring of Honor television champion. It was a tough match with both guys nearly winning on multiple occasions, but MJF got the win after choking Joe with some tape and applying a Coquina clutch style submission to cause Joe to pass out from the pain. Part of the reason that MJF won is because Adam Cole was at ringside for the final minutes of the match to urge MJF on and help him cheat. However, it was also noticeable that Cole was limping around because he jumped off the ramp to be at ringside, and when he landed, Cole turned his ankle. Now, at the upcoming AEW WrestleDream pay-per-view on October 1st in Seattle, the plan was to have MJF and Adam Cole defend their Ring of Honor tag team titles against a tag team that will be determined tonight on Rampage. No spoilers about that. But it looks like there are now serious concerns about Adam Cole's injury. In this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer detailed Adam Cole's injury while also questioning AEW's booking decision. He said, quote, Adam Cole ran in at the end of MJF vs. Samoa Joe title match. He jumped off the ramp to the floor while running and his ankle or knee went out. He did all the spots he was supposed to do in that finish, but was limping and not moving well. He was taken to the hospital after the match, and we still haven't heard a diagnosis. Because nobody heard anything on Cole, people feared the worst. Cole and MJF were scheduled to defend the Ring of Honor tag team titles on the October 1st pay-per-view against insert tag team here, but obviously that's in jeopardy. I have no earthly idea why MJF would be in a match with those two on a pay-per-view show. He should be defending the title, but if it was going to be a tag team title match, it should have been with either FTR or the Young Bucks, or worse, Penta and Phoenix. Even the Kingdom, who were teased as more as opponents, that storyline makes sense. Maybe we would be fine for TV or a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, but not a show where you're looking to get 140,000 buys or more, or draw an $800,000 house or even more. So as of right now, as mentioned, we don't really know any details about the injury. Of course, if we do, we'll let you know moving forward. Now, this is a strange story regarding Shawn Michaels liking an apparent anti-Stephanie McMahon tweet. WWE Senior Vice President of Talent Development Creative Shawn Michaels has liked a tweet that seems to be somewhat anti-Stephanie McMahon. With all the recent talk about Endeavor acquiring WWE and merging it with UFC, there was some conversation on Twitter about whether Vince McMahon should have instead given the company to his daughter, Stephanie McMahon. That led to one particular user tweeting the following quote, "Why should he give the company to his daughter? It's his company and he built it. If he wants to cash out, then let him. And Stephanie has hardly proved she can run the country. Look at how she treated Dusty after he owned her in a promo, or how she keeps claiming credit for Women's Revolution." Curiously, as you can see on the screen right now, Shawn Michaels has liked that tweet, as can be seen. In January of this year, Stephanie McMahon announced her departure from WWE as Vince McMahon returned. Following the employee layoffs of September 15, in which over 100 staff members were let go, some current and now former WWE employees said that they don't believe this would have happened under Stephanie McMahon's watch. So what do you think? What do you think of Shawn Michaels liking this tweet? Is this just a case of an accidental liking, or does it really give an insight into what HBK is thinking? Now, a bit more of an update when it comes to the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite and the ticket sales, because everyone's obsessed with ticket sales in AEW at the moment, certainly, aren't they? And for a while, this show was not selling very well at all. But instead now, in the last few days prior to the show, and actually the day of the show, ticket sales really picked up because the final number, reportedly, of tickets distributed for AEW Dynamite Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York was reportedly 11,263. Now, according to WrestleTix, this is believed to be one of the best walk-ups in company history, and they would estimate the paid figure to be in the range of 9,500 to 9,800. Now, again, this is certainly quite significant. It's being reported that actually the last-minute marketing that was done in New York, particularly by the likes of MJF, really helped sell tickets. So what are your thoughts on this final number? Because a week out, it was something like 6,000, 7,000, and to end up at over 11,000, AEW will be very happy. Does this give an indication in the future of what AEW needs to do more? That's promote and market their events. Let me know your thoughts about that too in the comment section below. Now, a couple more updates when it comes to the releases by WWE over the last 24 hours, one of which was Quincy Elliott. Now, 9 days after the merger with UFC and Endeavor by WWE to form TKO, several names were released by WWE yesterday. One of those names was NXT's Quincy Elliott, and some further details on the decision for him to be released were reported by Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful during a Fightful Select live stream. Sapp said, quote, "Quincy Elliott was in trouble. Quincy Elliott caused all kinds of issues for the staff in WWE. It was somebody that was always going to be up next on the chopping block. No other way to put it. Quincy Elliott was going to get cut." Now, Elliott made his NXT debut in September 2022 with the Super Diva gimmick, initially garnering a fair amount of buzz. Despite this, Elliott never gained much momentum or found sustained success on the brand, having not appeared on NXT television since an appearance in an NXT North American title #1 contender Battle Royal back in March of this year, which was only the only NXT TV match since October as well. His final match came in WWE at an NXT house show on August 19 in Tampa. Finally, speaking of releases, another name has been confirmed to be let go by WWE, and that is Eichmann. Gyro is the latest name. PW Insider has confirmed was released from WWE as part of yesterday's cuts. Known prior to his WWE NXT run as Gyro, Eichmann Kushiro, the Wrestle One star, was signed to WWE in December 2020. He debuted for the NXT brand in 2021 and teamed with Kushida as the Jacket Time tag team. He last wrestled for NXT several weeks ago. But there you go, guys. This latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.